back to another episode of Sit and Spin with me, your host, Joe Royland. I promised I would get one out before the end of the year, and technically I am recording this on the last day of the year, so it's not actually going to air until probably tomorrow, which will be the first day of 2016 officially, but I'm counting it as the last day of the year. And if you can't figure it out from the music in the background, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorites. I say one of the best for last, one of my favorite albums of this year, and that is the new self-titled album from Def Leppard. Now, it's the band's 11th studio album overall, their first since 2008's Songs from the Sparkle Lounge, marking like the longest break between studio albums for the band. It was independently released on Ear Music overseas and Mailboat Records here in the US. It's the band's 7th top 10 album overall, debuting at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 this year when it came out back on October 30th of this year. It was recorded at Joe Elliott's home studio, Joe's Garage in Dublin, Ireland, where most of the band's records have been recorded over the last several years. And it's self-titled Def Leppard because the band wanted it to kind of highlight all the aspects of Def Leppard's musical career to date. So you get a little bits of all the sounds that they've done over the years by design. Now, can't talk about Def Leppard without talking about the elephant in the room. We'll get to that. Def Leppard is a band who started out as a hard rock band. They debuted as part of the new wave of British heavy metal. But over the years, they have slowly shifted towards a more pop-oriented sound. Some people don't like this. Myself, I have been a fan of Def Leppard pretty much since the beginning. High and Dry, the band's second album, is still my all-time favorite Def Leppard album. But that said, as a fan of this band, and as a fan of any band, to me, what marks a true fan of a band is that you grow with the band instead of growing apart from the band, which a lot of people do. I'm guilty of that in some other cases, but as I've gotten older, I try to say this. And the problem is a lot of people, they get hung up on something. They get hung up on the fact that the band has changed their style, and they can't get past what the band were and get hung up on that instead of being able to appreciate them for what they become. Some people just want something to be the caterpillar forever. They don't want it to evolve into the butterfly. Not me. Especially not with Def Leppard. I've liked, or at least can appreciate things from all stages of their career. And the other thing is, here's the thing you guys need to get over. Def Leppard, never going to make a record like those first 3 albums. For one, they can't. Steve Clark, unfortunately, dead. Pete Willis, not a member of the band either. So without those 2 guys who were the big riffmeisters and heavily contributed to the sound of those first 3 records, Pete Willis, even though he is not officially a member of the band by the time Pyromania comes out, did play on it and co-wrote a lot of tunes. But with those guys not in the band, of course they're not going to sound like they did anymore. And secondly, Def Leppard has never shied away, never said that they, actually let me say this again. Def Leppard has always maintained that they wanted to be as successful as possible. And to do that, you gotta kind of lean more towards a commercial sound. So some people go, oh, they sold out. Well, hey, if trying to reach the most people possible is your end game, that's achieving a goal. That's not selling out. Selling out is doing something you don't want to do to try to be popular. That's never what Def Leppard's done. Def Leppard has always done what Def Leppard wanted to do to be as successful as possible. But hey, enough about that. Some more quibbles we'll get to at the end of this review. But let's get back to the music of Def Leppard. And kicking off the album, it was the first single called Let's Go, which was released back at the beginning. And I'm going to come around and say it. Yes, it's probably the weakest cut on the album, in that it's kind of formulaic. It's kind of got like little bits and pieces of former Def Leppard songs to it. But even then, there's a lot of great stuff going on in this song. There's some really cool Queen Brian May style solos from the harmony style guitar solos from Phil Collen and Vivian Campbell. Great background vocals, and the bridge section is just masterfully done. So it's by design meant to kind of sound like that old stuff. It's kind of like a reminder, hey, you remember this old stuff we used to do? Maybe you'll like this. But I'm glad it's at the beginning of the album, get it out of the way, and then we get on to the rest of the album proper. And the next track of the album, Dangerous, which was the second single released off the album, and probably would have made a better opening single. It's because it's just classic old school Leppard sounding stuff. Just a high energy rocker, cool arpeggiated guitar intro riff that flows into these really great pan power chord effects. Super catchy, great solo from Vivian Campbell and end licks from Phil Collen. There's a moment in the song right after the guitar solo where this little Sisora and then Joe Elliott comes in with a and man, that moment just does it for me every time. Not ashamed to admit that. Next track on the album, called Man Enough. It's an ode to early 80s funky style Queen circa Another One Bites the Dust. And Def Leppard, again, never made any bones about the fact that they're huge Queen fans. You can go back through some of their tracks and find Queen influence tracks everywhere. Great bass playing from Rick Savage on that track, as well as throughout the album. Rick really shines on this record, whether it's on bass, and he plays a lot of acoustic guitar on the album too. Next track up is a song called We Belong, and it's one of two stellar ballads on this album. Def Leppard's never shied away from doing a great ballad. Some people don't like that. I love it because Def Leppard does great fucking ballads, and this is one of two on this album. This one is also a Leppard first, and then it features all of the members of the band taking a crack at lead vocals on the verses, starting out with Joe and then going into Phil, Savage, Viv, and Rick Allen at the end. And there is like a bonus track version on the Classic Rock fan pack edition. It's just all Joe as an alternate take on the version, but I really like this mixed vocal version of the album. It's just great. In a perfect world, this song would be a huge hit, but I'm going to get to that point a little bit later in the next ballad. But next up on the album, we have the track Invincible, which was co-written by Rick Allen and Joe Elliott. And it is a old school 80s kind of almost sounding Charlie Sexton-like number, which again, to me, is awesome because I love Charlie Sexton, always have, always will, but it just totally reminds me of like kind of like the chugging guitar sounds, and with the kind of like the pinched harmonics and whammy bar guitar fills from Phil Collen, just very much brings to mind Charlie Sexton, and great opening overdriven guitar bass part from from Rick Savage on it. This I absolutely love. After that, we kick into some super rockin', and like a lot of people think, oh, this album didn't rock enough. Well, I don't think you listened to the whole thing, because like from my notes, the next 5 or 6 tracks, pretty much all rockers. Kicking off with the song Sea of Love, great old school 70s kind of glam era style rock tune with some R&B style backing vocals. Highlights this rocker that was written by Phil Collen. Again, a great solo with a little bit of a Hendrixy flourish from Phil Collen on the track too. It's awesome. Next track, Energized, also written by Phil Collen, but it's a bit something different. It's more of a mid-tempo, electronic-driven type tune with some cool backwards tracked effects and stacked vocal lines in that. Rather than just sing the song straight through, Joe Elliott sings a line and then sings the next line, but the next line kind of starts before the first one ends. It's kind of a neat effect, but really well done. Again, something different from the band, but well done. Kind of cool that, you know, respect for them to try different things at this point in their career, maybe things they haven't done, because they still pull it off, and that's what matters to me. From there, we go right back into 4 straight-on rockers from the album, kicking off with All Time High, which is the first track you heard playing in the background. High-energy rocker, the type that Def Leppard haven't done in a while. Another super catchy tune with great harmony solos from Phil, and just fiery solo from Phil Collen with some nice back end licks from Vivian Campbell. Battle of Neon, which you also heard in the background, just an awesome acoustic Led Zeppelin-driven track with open tune guitars played by Phil, Sav, and Joe, all playing on the track at the same time, which is really cool, before kicking into like this full-on orchestrated rocker. I could hear like Chris Cornell or even Soundgarden having done this back in the early to mid-90s and having a huge hit with it. And Vivian Campbell, just some tasty guitar closing licks. The track you're hearing right now, Broken Hearted, another high-octane rocker with a 70s kind of vibe to it, and the sing-along chorus is really great. Another excellent solo from Phil Collen. Just great rocker. The track after this, called Forever Young, stays with the pulsing, pounding rocker vein. Killer crunchy guitars from Phil and Viv, trading off on the solos, awesome. And then from there, we shift back into the ballads again, with again another should be a huge ballad for the band, but you know, it's 2015-16 and it's Def Leppard, so it's unlikely that that's going to happen. Tragedy, but in another decade this song would be huge, and it's a track called Last Dance. I can hear this band being a mega hit cover for some country artists because it's just sort of has that element of country tune to it. Sweet soulful solo, should I say, from Vivian Campbell, and just beautifully amazing song, awesome harmony vocals. Like I said, in a perfect world, this song should be a huge hit. It's just unfortunate that because it's Def Leppard, and now it's unlikely that that's going to happen, but that's too bad. From there, we kick back into one more last super rocket track called Wings of an Angel, which is another solid rocker with some of the crunchiest guitars on a Led Zeppelin song album in quite some time. It's got a slow burn tempo that shifts into overdrive on the choruses, kind of a la Foolin'. Viv racks up another great solo on this one. And from there, we go into the album's closing cut, a tune called Blind Faith, which is a very psychedelic Beatles-esque kind of closer. Again, something sort of different from the band. Nice shimmery phase guitar licks, string section, Mellotron even, courtesy of the album's co-producer Ronan McHugh. And just a great wave to ride out the album on. But overall, the most solidly consistent Def Leppard album in nearly 2 decades, if not even all the way back to Hysteria. I absolutely love this album. I love it so much, I even ordered the import vinyl. I originally picked it up on CD, but I liked it so much I had to have it on vinyl, which sounds amazing, even more amazing, by the way. And that's how much I liked it. I had to pay extra to order the import vinyl because it's not available in the US. Easily a top 3 record for me of the year. I've listened to this record and dissected it so much that I'm so familiar with it, I automatically know the next tune that's going to come up. I can hear it in my head before it even starts. But just a great record. And it just surprises me because some of the things I've read and heard from other people out there are that it's a disappointing record. And I don't get that. I don't get that at all, man, because this record is awesome. It's got some of the hardest rocking, most memorable, best guitar lines on a Def Leppard album, and I can't remember how long. And I was extremely disheartened when I heard, like, on one of my favorite podcasts recently that they said, hey, don't expect to hear any of this on our upcoming Best of the Albums of the Year show because it was a big disappointment for us, man. And that, like, man, just like shot a dagger through my heart. And Guy, I'm not going to name it, you know who you are, but guys, man, I don't get it. I mean, hey, there are all things that we like that other people don't like and vice versa. And again, I'm as guilty of that as anybody. But they were making comments about how Def Leppard makes music for housewives now. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to dispel that myth for you right now. Okay, first off, what's wrong with that? When you consider this, most of Def Leppard's female teenage audience that grew up with them are housewives now. They're middle-aged housewives now. You might be married to one of them. You might even be one of them listening to the podcast or to the show right now. And if you are, what's so wrong about that? Are you trying to insult those people? I'm not, because I'm friends with some of those people. And again, like, is that such a bad thing? I don't think so. Like I said, Def Leppard have never shied away from doing a killer ballad. Like, again, here you're hearing some of it now, Last Dance. And when you do it that well, fuck it, because it's great. So again, if you think this album is a disappointment and you don't like it, I don't get it. You're lost, because I think it's amazing. I think it's the best Def Leppard album in a long time. And again, like I said, easily one of the best of their career. And if you don't dig it, you're missing out. But hey, that's your ball of wax, not mine. But thanks for tuning into this very lengthy show, our last show of 2015, officially first of the new year, but we won't call it that. Still got a lot of stuff from 2015 to get around to, but the beautiful thing about the beginning of the new year is it's a dead zone generally for new music releases, so it gives me a perfect chance to catch up on all those records I missed last year or hadn't gotten quite around to, being super busy with the baby and all. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time, which hopefully won't be that long. Well, I got this one out pretty quick. And hopefully you're checking out my good friend Scott over at Righteous Final, as well as Terrifically Gay Guys, and all the great podcasts that I'm still a fan of, even if they diss this album. That you should be checking out. Decibel Geek Podcast, Rock and Roll Podcast, Shabby Road Record Show, Pods and Sods, and Dig Me Out Podcast, as well as any of the other ones I post. Please give these people a listen, give them the love you give me. And we will catch you next time on Sit and Spin. Take it easy and Happy New Year. See you then. Oh yeah, fucking go out and buy this record because it's awesome.